Welcome back to another episode of the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. Paul Eaton returns for another movie review. This time around, we discussed Howard the Duck, Marvel movie produced by Lucasfilms and George Lucas. Howard the Duck came out in 1986. This is a movie we've been wanting to discuss on the podcast for a while here. So we dove deep into it, talking about whether there are dislikes and likes and so on and so forth. But before you check it out, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky, as well as rate, review, subscribe, all those things over at Apple and Spotify and all your major podcasting platforms. This episode is Paul Eaton of Galactic Comics and Collectibles talking with me about Howard the Duck, Marvel movie from 1986. Enjoy, everyone. Welcome, Paul, to the podcast. How are you?
Good morning, Justin. I guarantee you, this is the most work anyone has ever done to do a review of Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck? I don't know, man. Howard the Duck.
I don't think anyone else gone through this much work to review Howard the Duck ever. Maybe. You've got me down a rabbit hole. I've been reading Howard the Duck stuff.
Howard the Duck. So not
comics, but reviews and in production stuff and stuff about the movie and everything. Now I sort of feel like I should go read some Howard the Duck comics. I don't think I've ever actually read one.
So what's funny is I thought I had.
Oh, there it is.
Remember we talked about it because I was going to bring it on. We talked after the recording. I was going to bring it on when we talked about Man Thing, because this is my only Man Thing comic book is this one, which is Adventure into the Fear 19, which is the first appearance of Howard the Duck. But now we actually can have this one out because we're talking about Howard the Duck.
We are.
Yeah, I don't know. The funny thing is Howard the Duck. So that's the 1986. I mean, I was 2 months old.
I should put some Howard the Duck trades out. So I was going to say, this is one, I was thinking about this last night. It's a very vivid memory. I've always, for some reason, stuck in my head. I remember going to the movie store and them having the giant cardboard cutout of Howard the Duck. And I don't know why it stuck in my head so much. The image of the eggshell with the cigar sticking out of it and the beak and stuff, it just stuck with me. I don't know why. So, and it's funny, I never saw this movie growing up. I didn't watch this movie until I got a DVD copy in the store, maybe last year. It's funny, I don't have I feel like most kids probably watched this back in the day. It's
available on Blu-ray. If you want to watch it on Blu-ray, you can watch it in high definition.
Baby, high def Howard the Duck. Who doesn't need that?
Come on. I'm a male born in the 80s. There's some parts of this, the first 15 minutes of this movie, 20 minutes of the movie, you want to watch that. And I'm not talking about even the duck nudity. I'm talking about the one and only Leah Thompson getting into bed with our friend Howard the Duck here.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I always make jokes in the shop about how there's that point where she's almost wanting to sleep with Howard the Duck. Okay, through this another watch, she does say at the end of it that she's joking. It is a joke, but still. Creepy.
She says that,
but then she kisses him. So I don't know.
I don't know if Howard went with it if she wasn't going to go with it. I don't know. I don't know. That entire scene's very uncomfortable.
But it's also uncomfortable for anybody who watches Back to the Future and see this is Marty McFly's mom walking in her underwear across the room
She
apparently
was just really good at playing uncomfortable roles in the 80s. It's almost exclusively.
Yes, exactly. But we're
here to talk about somebody to do some weird stuff. You call her manager and say,
Leah Thompson. But we're here to talk about Howard the Duck, like we mentioned off the top here. Howard the Duck is a film that came out August 1st of 1986. It was from the production company, ready? Lucasfilm. If anybody didn't know that, one of the producers was Gloria Katz and George Lucas. So George Lucas was a producer on this wonderful movie. It was a low moment in his career as a producer.
How many people do you think know that this is a Lucas production?
Minimal. And you want to know why? It's probably on purpose.
Yeah, I don't think this is something that they promote an awful lot.
No, not at all. But you also haven't heard him come out and say things like defending you when he was defending Jar Jar Binks and things like that. He's never actually, I've never heard an interview with him where he's out there defending Howard the Duck.
You know what? I would rather defend Howard the Duck than Jar Jar Binks.
Most people
If
would,
I
I
had
think.
to hang out with one of the two of them, I'm definitely hanging out with Howard.
Yeah. Oh, obviously. He's got
Yeah.
nudie duck magazines.
And he drinks beer.
And he drinks beer and smokes cigars. Why wouldn't you want to hang out with him
Right?
over Jar Jar Binks? Hey, Jar Jar Binks might have nudie Jar Jar. I don't even know what they're called. It's Gundams,
Oh
whatever the hell
God.
they are.
Whatever they are.
Yeah. But Howard the Duck is suddenly beamed from Duckworld, a planet of intelligent ducks with arms and legs, to Earth, where he lands in Cleveland. Also a funny location, random location. But I think that might have been on purpose. There he saves rocker Beverly, who's played by Leah Thompson, and from thugs, and forms a friendship with her. She introduces him to Phil, who's played by Tim Robbins, who was in Shawshank Redemption, if anybody doesn't know that.
This was his first role.
Who works at it, and he went on to end up starring in one of my favorite movies of all time, whereas Leah Thompson was in Back to the Future and then kind of like fizzled out. But
this was kind of it for her. I think Howard the Duck is
there. She was in Space Camp next. Her next movie was Space Camp.
But, man, I remember that movie. I love that movie when I was a kid.
But she brings Dr. Jennings, which just off the top, I am not going to mention who plays Dr. Jennings, is mainly because this person is not a great person. So Dr. Jennings was this way. It was supposed to be at a convention in New England, and the person got canceled because no one realized that the back history of this person. But anybody wants to look into that, you can look into it on your own. But I'm not saying who played the character. He did
play in some other major roles too.
He did, yes, he did.
Then. Yep.
When Doctor attempts to return Howard to his world, Jennings instead transfers an evil spirit into his body. So, is there a Howard the Duck? We've talked a Man Thing, that this wasn't really close to like the Man Thing story. There's certain comic book movies that don't really go to that. But let's be honest, Howard the Duck being such a underknown and not well-liked character at the time, obscure. That's a good word. In 1986, they could have written anything with this character. First of all, why did they choose Howard the Duck in the first place?
Well, that was what. So, I looked this up. This is the very first live-action Marvel movie. There was some brief clips of stuff in the 40s, the Captain America 40s stuff of like reels, but they don't count as like movies. Yeah. And this was the first live-action Marvel movie. Even though it doesn't have a Marvel title on it, I think, at all. I think it probably like credits Marvel at the end.
I think it says like based on a Marvel comic book at the possibly somewhere. At the beginning. But I don't think
Yeah. It's not much. It's not like we've got the current Marvel banner going up there, or even like anything that Marvel Comics presents. It's very much freestanding by itself.
Yeah.
I don't know why the hell did they choose Howard the Duck. They
out of all the characters that you could have, even obscure characters that you could have gone with, Howard the Duck. It is one of those things that maybe and that's the thing here. We'll get into some Amazon reviews like we talked about at the end of Man Thing. I did screenshot some, but one thing was that someone wrote in a longer one that I didn't choose because I didn't want to read this entire paragraph in this person's review, but was they could have gone kids friendly, funny, family friendly movie. They could have gone 1980s like stoner like comedy movie, and they kind of played the line in between and didn't go into one boat or the other. They did they was supposed to be, I think it's technically classified as a comedy.
I guess it's a comedy, and it's PG, right? It's PG rated. I mean, you're talking 80s.
It's PG rated, but it's 80 PG. Yeah, exactly. What I just watched that was PG. Oh, I just watched Swamp Thing. 80s PG, and there's nudity in it.
I was gonna say, I'm not watching this with my kids. No. Like I'm not watching this with my girls. It's all right. So I was reading about how this is like voted as and won awards as the worst movie of all time. Well, I can tell you my first viewing of this movie, watching it the first time in the shop, I thought it was entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
It kept me entertained.
There is that. It's entertaining, yes.
It's not like, I mean, I kept watching. I watched it through. Like it was a slow. I had like a morning in here, and I was like making bags and boards and stuff. And I'm like, oh, let's try this out. And I ended up watching the entire thing, making bags and boards, and really like I think focusing more on it. It's not like I got up and like, all right, I'm gonna go do other stuff and ignore it. The first going, I did watch the entire movie through.
Mm-hmm.
I
But
can definitely understand the critic side of it, because watching it a second time on this idea that
yeah,
we're reviewing this movie, yeah, the acting is not good, the plot is not good, the writing is not really good.
it's definitely set up. Okay, if you bring this plot, quote unquote plot, into a TV show or a mini
Quote
series or
unquote
something,
plot.
if you bring this into something else, I feel like if you fleshed out some of the ideas, I think would have been a little bit better. It's definitely not a horrid movie to the point where like I wasn't struggling to put it back on again. I was like, okay, it's entertaining,
Right.
it's something to watch. It will make me giggle at some of the jokes, maybe. It will make me giggle
Yeah.
at some of the things, like some of the choices. So like, okay, it's an entertaining movie. The fact that he gets sucked from his home planet, but you don't see enough attachment to his home planet to, other than the
Right.
fact that we all, like, if I got stuck to another random place in the world too that I didn't know anybody, didn't know anything how it worked, I'd want to go back home too. Other than that,
Right.
there was no like opening scene where you see him with a wife or a kids or a
Yeah,
job he
he
really
doesn't have
likes
a
or
family. He
something
doesn't
that he
have
really wants
anything
to go back
going.
to. Like there is
Yeah.
nothing to go back to. And then the same thing once he lands here, what's this movie takes over a span of a couple of days.
Yeah.
And in this couple of days, he falls, not even falls in love, but like has a super friendship with a person where he's willing to not now go back to his planet, or not wanting to go back to his
Yeah.
planet because he wants to be with in on Earth. And so like both sides of those feel very thin. Like there's not enough
Yes.
of caring
No.
and loving. You don't feel for Howard at all from the beginning or at the
No.
end. Like you don't understand. I mean,
No.
we've all
And the
had these friendships that started up quickly, but to the point where like you're visiting on vacation. So you go to Florida and you meet someone over a week where
oh
you're
my
just gonna be
God,
like,
yeah,
I'm
always.
not going back to Maine now. Like, is that like,
That was always the 80s, like, things I remember. Like, you watch the movies and the girl falls in love with the guy falls in love with the girl on the vacation trip that lasts over a 3-day weekend, and all of a sudden they're
and they just
forever
don't go back?
together.
Like, so
Right.
there's that,
Yeah,
those
it doesn't
things
make any
that, yes,
sense.
those things, but if you added in a mini series or some sort of television series, you
But
could have
this,
done an episode where there was like an episode of the first where it's like him on Duckworld and just living in Duckworld,
yeah,
and then an episode of them on Earth screwing with the laser, and then like, at the end you there's could be this more flushed out thing, but in a 2 hour movie, and also have a plot of them trying to like basically save the world, they had to like
yeah.
thin out some of that stuff, and that's what stuff that got
Do
me
you
the
think?
most.
Do you think this would have been better if we didn't have the whole interdimensional demon Dark Lord thing
Yes,
and all that crap? Like, if we
yes.
just did have Howard, I think it would have made a lot more sense that we had Howard and Howard on Earth, and how is he going to get home, and does he going to get home? And
The villain
I think
is,
that would have been enough. I think that would have
yeah,
been enough of the plot. I don't know why we decided to go just because it was a superhero movie. We got to have a villain. We got to have a super villain.
I don't know. And
Like, I don't know.
because the villain could have been quote unquote the idea that he can't go back to his home planet. So like
Yeah,
that's the
or you could
or
have had like
the villain
the
could have been the
scientist
scientist still without
just
being
trying to
Overlord.
yeah, the scientist trying to like make a name for himself here on Earth. He wants to capture Howard. He wants to dissect Howard. He wants to screw up the found alien life, and he wants to destroy their planet because they're a threat, even though he's a comedic cigar smoking duck.
Yeah.
But the whole Overlord thing was a lot and bizarre.
Yeah, and it was made in 1986, and back then, any sort of movie had to have a big bad and all that stuff. Like they're like
Yeah,
nowadays, we know these small, like even this is a comic book movie basically because it's based on a comic book. Is that even until more recently they weren't able to make small street level, like even with Spider-Man, which is a street level character, which everybody knows.
yeah,
He's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He protects New York City. Even to that point, it wasn't until more recent one where he was like trying to protect New York City that like there's this big world ending things that just happen to be
right.
happening in New York
It
City.
always
Whereas nowadays they have these small like street level kind of shows that have to do with like a small thing.
the
If
the
WandaVision
Netflix
was this
Daredevil
one
run.
town. Yes, the
Yeah,
Netflix Daredevil where it was like all the Netflix
I
things, Luke
think it's more
Cage, all that stuff.
compelling. I'm
Yes.
much more interested in the character that's not far from myself. Okay, obviously I'm not running through New York City in a suit fighting crime,
Yeah.
but the guy that gets up and goes to work and is doing this stuff and may have a romantic interest, and you feel sorry for him because he has this obligation he feels to be a superhero, whatever. I find that storyline much more interesting than
Mm-hmm.
here's aliens, the world's going to end, they're destroying the world. Wait, now we moved on, they're destroying the dimension. I would much rather have just a close to home story that you can feel interested in and feel close to the character than this whole drawn out, ginormous plot.
And
Which I think is a flaw of Howard the Duck.
they don't ever touch on the duck planet either, like Duckworld. Like it almost would have been nice to just like a visual, like what's happening. He needs to get home because his world's imploding because of this rift in the time space continuum or whatever.
Yeah. We've screwed up stuff and we gotta adjust it back.
Yeah. And so that would have been a good way to go. They didn't. They opted not to. And the funny, I don't know.
We've rewritten this plot 3 times better than the plot they went with.
And I don't know if you knew this, Paul.
In minutes.
But do you know who the writers of this movie are? Did you look that up?
I know I read about it.
It's William Huck, or Huyck, and Gloria Katz. So Gloria Katz is also a producer of this movie.
Right.
Who wrote the screenplay for none other than Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
That's right. That was the thing. When I remember looking, they were like they did other very large, well-received things.
We say that. This was basically Willard Huck's last really big thing. Like after this movie, he didn't actually do it.
This might have been the
but he was the writer and director of it, and Gloria Katz was a writer and producer on the movie. So there's like one small team of Willard, Gloria, and George Lucas who were like the reasoning behind this whole thing.
How did you have people that did Indiana Jones and Star Wars, and we end up with this?
And that's the thing. Here's the deal. I think that's his biggest fault. I think it's his biggest fault. People are trying to say Howard the Duck in comparison to Indiana Jones and Star Wars. You're talking two franchises that are going to go down in history for the rest of our lives as two of the Raider franchises and the most popular franchises. Is
that the problem? They tried to go big because of it. That's why we had stop animation. Yes. Because I read that the stop animation was listed highly in this. When at the end, when he's fighting the Dark Overlord, when it's in its like whatever state, and I guess if you look in 1986, that probably looked good. Yes. It doesn't look good now. It doesn't look. At the same time, it doesn't look awful. Like really, I don't know. Everything goes back to the first Hulk movie where he fights the poodle and it looks like we got Who Framed Roger Rabbit world, like it looks CGI bad. I would rather watch the weird, I don't know what this alien thing is. I would rather watch that than watch the Hulk movie.
But so here's the thing. Also, with you mentioned that doesn't need to happen. Do we need that creature at the end, or could we have just used Dr. Jennings with his Force-like powers, his friggin'
and he got
Star
creepy.
Wars, like the electricity and shit like that.
They did a good job of making him creepy.
And he could have been the villain.
Back to the special effects are what they are.
Well, it's Star Wars. That's the Force powers. You see the electricity. That's that's all stuff you saw in Star Wars. So it's like Lucas production stuff coming over. But like, when the
makeup on him was good. Like
he uses his vision and like and he blows up
the ketchup. Yeah.
Also,
bad.
Did you not catch the fact that the waitress came to the table and says, "Oh, your son's duck costume is so cute," and then Howard the Duck orders 3 beers and she says, "Okay."
Yeah. Well, Leah Thompson orders 3 beers.
Yeah.
Just give us 3 specials and 3 beers, and she's like, "Okay," brings Howard a beer. It was the 80s, man. It was the 80s. You go to the right place, apparently. I'm a 6-year-old in a duck costume. I can just order a beer. No one questions it.
And he flips out about the chicken eggs.
Different time. Oh yeah,
that would be like me. I guess we don't eat apes, but like we could eat apes. It'd be like if we were like, "Oh, ape, this is ape meat."
Parts of the world do, I guess.
But it's not like if you're seeing another fowl's eggs, that does not mean that it's not duck eggs. Oh, there might have been duck eggs. I don't know. This is a fancy diner.
Right, but the ducks in our world aren't the ducks. Like they have that scene where he's like, I don't know. It's almost like the Ratatouille scene when his dad brings him to the place and they have all the rats and all of the rat poison and all this. And he's standing in front of the TVs and there's like Daffy Duck getting portrayed as an idiot. And there's like the duck hunters like, if I can blast more of these things out of the sky and all this and that. But like, he's not the ducks on Earth. Like the ducks on Earth are not walking around smoking cigars and on 2 feet and carrying a wallet with a condom in it.
The egg, all
ridiculous.
The condom, not in a packaging at all. Just in.
Cool, man. right there.
And I like how she goes, "Oh, Howard." Like,
Howard. The weird sexual references in this movie that's a PG movie that we can't decide if this is a family movie or not a family movie. And like scenes like that are the ones where the kid looks and goes, "Mom, what's that?"
yeah.
And
Well, the
you don't
duck
want
boobs.
to
I mean, that's the
oh
biggest
God,
part.
the duck
Like
boobs.
the
Why
5 minutes into the movie, you see the nude magazine, which you're kind of, that would,
yeah,
okay, to me, if they
he's
did
looking at
that,
the play duck.
play duck. Okay, you're making a joke. It's you're trying to
Right.
make a Earth-based thing in this duck world. Okay, that's funny.
Right.
I get it. It makes sense. But then when he busts through the wall, being sucked into our dimension, and goes through a bathroom with a woman shower or duck showering with her top
duck,
off,
she's taking a bath. Yeah.
That wasn't. There was no reason for that. There was no need for that.
Who also doesn't do like your trope horror movie scream and grab a towel thing.
Yes.
She just keeps singing her song.
Yep.
Like you just blew through 2 walls of her bathroom in this apartment. Like you didn't, and she just keeps going.
So those are the kind of, it was kind of funny. So technically, we talked in the last review we did with Man Thing. Man Thing seems to be the first a human nudity. We have now backed it up with a movie that
duck
is
nudity, the original very
nudity.
first Marvel nudity of the duck nudity. Very weird, and like unnecessary, and
yeah,
like, and that's your start of the line of this movie is, are you going family friendly or aren't you? Well, right there, you're 5 minutes in, we're not family friendly, but then it never goes far enough to, like you said, to draw an adult interest.
Yes,
It
there was no
have...
other. I mean, the jokes that she wants to sleep with him, but not really jokes. Here's the other part is, so Paul,
so uncomfortable.
I go to a friend's house who's a female. So sorry, let me back this up. I go to someone that I don't even know, meeting them for the first time, and you're just getting out of the shower in your underwear and walking and sharing a bed with them like 2 nights after, and you're not sleeping with each other, but still, it's still that weird thing. Like, I wouldn't just, like, if my friends were here, my friends,
duck. I mean, you're not going to worry about it.
If my friends were here out in the living room, I'm not walking out to the living room in my boxers. That's just one of those weird things in this movie. It's like they had a sex symbol in Leah Thompson, who was a mid-20s.
So let's
put her out in her underwear, and let's see if we can get some sales because of that, which they didn't. I'll tell everybody right now, the movie was made for $37 million and it box office for $38 million, which means I saw that. Just so everybody knows, it didn't make $1 million. It lost millions of dollars because those numbers are basically like production costs and how much money made in the box office. That does not include the money that the theaters take, distribution part, everything, advertising, all that stuff. So the movie cost,
was a huge flop.
Yeah. $38 million. So when you see someone make $1 billion, at least what, 250 million of that had to go to the theaters because they take a chunk. That's how much money was brought in.
They're gonna get probably 20%, at least 30%.
Just the movie theaters part of that is going to be another 8 or 10 million. So you're talking that it lost 11 million just on that aspect, not including any other props. And here's the question: I own it on DVD and Blu-ray. You bought it up. Like, people have bought it over the years. Have they made some of that money back up? Possibly. This is not as bad of a loss as some other movies that have been out there. I mean, Shazam and Flash lost millions. Yes, it does.
Oh yeah, it says it has a cult following. I'm sure there's 80 kids that did watch this movie that still to this day remember Howard the Duck, and this is like their probably, it's like a childhood nostalgia thing. I'm sure there are some. It's weird. So going into, all right, so we've covered the fact the writing in this is not good and wildly incoherent, and it talked about like the weird lines that it doesn't ever go one way or the other. Yeah. Production wise, there were, I think it said, so Howard is done in numerous forms. Sometimes he is a person wearing a costume. Sometimes it's a puppet. And however they came up with this thing, there's like 6 variations that don't match each other. Because I noticed that the second time, the first time I'm like, okay, we're looking at the duck. The second time through, I'm watching it, and you notice his body shape drastically changing. Like, sometimes he's more thin, sometimes he's more rounded, like a duck looks. Like, he goes from like a Donald Duck build to like a Daffy Duck build to, like, it's constantly, there's no similarity in perfect structure to it. It's all over the place.
Look in here.
And apparently it took months upon months upon months in engineers to make that one weird quote unquote sex scene where his feathers pop up on
Oh
his
wow,
head when she
yeah.
starts rubbing him. Yeah, that took like so many engineers and people working on this, and I'm sort of like looking at it like, for that, like
Yes.
that scene, that's the one that
And
you
obviously
guys
things
decided
change
to
over the time. It's
invest
hard
the
to
most in.
see. Can you see over here on this side over here, the panel over here, if anybody's watching? That's what Howard the
Okay,
Duck looks like in the original comic book.
here's your original Howard
Okay.
right there.
So I understand there's having to put someone's head in a suit if you're doing this live action thing. So you have to obviously have it big enough to go over someone's head.
Over his
Plus
head.
the 8 people, 8 different
Yeah.
people were involved in Howard the Duck. So no one out there is quote unquote Howard the Duck. So this literally could go to a convention and be like, I was Howard the Duck, because Ed Gale and Jordan Prentice also.
It's like
were
going
both,
and saying you're a stormtrooper.
yes, we're
I was
both
a stormtrooper.
suit performers. So they were in the suit. Or Ed did some of them and Jordan did some of them. Tim Rose, Steve Sleep, Peter Baird, Mary Wells, and Lisa Sturtz did puppeteers. So they did the puppeting part of it. And then Chip Zine was Howard the Duck's voice. So you have all of these people who went into making this one character.
I read a bunch of complaints that Howard the Duck's voice wasn't. No one liked it apparently.
No, I didn't like it.
He's too basic.
I want him to be like, so here's the deal. So one of the reasons why this is getting more attention nowadays is because he first appeared in the MCU in Guardians of the Galaxy in the living exhibit from the Collector's Museum on Nowhere.
He's on the end credit scene.
People talk about it. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Da da da. And then people started watching the over again. So you go back to this, and what I want is this Howard the Duck.
This Howard the Duck in the MCU.
Well, but that would have been funny. This Howard the Duck is like the Deadpool from X-Men or Wolverine. Wolverine Origins. You know what I mean? Versus what they put in the Guardians of the Galaxy. Obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy Nowhere scene has CGI, so they did a complete CGI thing with it, but it looks more like what I want it to look like. I totally respect puppeteers and live.
He looks a lot more in the CGI scene like the animated.
He looks like he fits
or the comic book Howard the Duck, and acts more like him. I think that was another thing, is that they didn't really ever get the personality of Howard down. They I
wanted to be dirty, telling dirty jokes. He's too nice.
Yeah.
He's a dick, honestly.
Based off of who's the comedian, the Marks? It was a old dirty old man with a scar, and that's like the general idea of what he is they just went off his personality.
He's a douchebag version of Donald Duck.
Yeah.
He's an asshole. That's what you want him to be. So
womanizer, dink, alcoholic,
and that's what I say about the Deadpool that's in Wolverine is mute, because they couldn't use what they wanted to, which was dick jokes and things like that. And so when they made Deadpool the R-rated movie, this is the Deadpool that you were expecting, because he actually makes those jokes and he says these things.
My God.
This is like, we want that. Like they toned Howard the Duck down. So if they make a Howard the Duck movie or TV show, which they were going to on Hulu. So Hulu had intended to air Howard the Duck animated series, written and executive produced by Kevin Smith and Dave Willis.
Oh my God!
It was going to be a crossover where they did the MODOK one that was done by Patton Oswalt and Jordan Bloom.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah,
they did Hit Monkey. They were going to do Hit Monkey, which came out, Tigra, Dazzler, and then do a series called The Offenders. But in 2020, they nixed a Howard the Duck series. So I'm guessing that Howard the Duck series, written by a raunchy comedian, would have been a pretty raunchy take on Howard the Duck, and would have been what we were probably more expecting. But yeah, that suit thing, I practical effects to me, I love practical effects, and the only thing that it worked on at my level for is the fact that he looked like he fit more. You know what I mean? Like he looked like he was part of the scene and not like CGI from the 1980s would have looked like he was
in the movie. I don't think the duck costume looks that bad. I think the hard part is the way we kept changing it over and over again through it. If they just stuck with one, more to one thing, and I guess they were having problems, the feathers falling out, all this other crap constantly.
I can imagine. By the way, just before you go,
everywhere.
It's hard to see. You can't see, but if you see on this wall right here, this one right here, it's hard to see. I guess if you're watching, it might be cut out when I actually do the editing, but that's signed by Tim Rose, who was one of the puppeteers of Howard the Duck.
Oh, nice.
So,
yeah, I almost wonder, would we have been better off if we said, okay, we're gonna make the suit, we're gonna have a person in the suit, and that's just what we did. Like,
well, that's what it was in TMNT. I mean, it was 4 years later, but like,
Yeah, TMNT. Yeah, and it's 4 years later, but it's not that much longer,
No.
realistically. I mean, we had Muppets out, we had all these other things. You know, if you were gonna do the one thing and stick with it, there's not somebody that occasionally wears a Kermit the Frog costume.
Yeah.
Kermit's a puppet. He is. That's what he is all the time. And same idea to the Ninja Turtle movie where the turtles are turtles.
Mhm.
They're actors and they put on the suit and that's it. We're done. That's the constant. I think you might have been better to just stick with one versus they. I mean, can you imagine how much the production costs were to keep making more puppets and doing this and different things, and they probably ate up a pile of cash doing that.
I wonder if there's any suits still available, still around, or like the
Right?
Bills or anything like that. Like it's, I mean, you're
That'd be
talking,
cool.
we're going in 2006, 26 will be
Ooh,
40-year
40
anniversary of it.
years since Howard the Duck.
And then I
Um,
wonder, yeah, but that's crazy. But yeah, it's
would you add that to your Marvel collection? If you could get the
what.
head, if you could get one
Oh
of the
my god,
heads.
if we had a head, it's so gross though. Can you imagine if the turtles went from 1990 are that
Oh, they
gross? Like
deteriorated so much.
these
They
things
look
with
like zombies.
feathers. Yeah, that's yeah. I'm sorry. Maybe a
All right,
feather.
so if
Maybe a feather
the
pressed in
ultimate
glass
the
on the
ultimate
wall. That would work.
cosplay, if we could get somebody to get a Howard the Duck suit that looks like this one.
Well, the
Like
funny thing is, it's not Howard the Duck
I would
suit.
love
It's a
to get my
Howard the Duck
photo with
head.
it
The head and a neck. I guarantee is a head and a neck
and a
thing
neck,
with a
and then
suit
the
on top of
body,
it,
and
and
then they
then
got the
a
gloves.
gloves, and then
Yep,
like
and then the weird duck feet. You
they're
know
like
what's
almost like a
funny too?
storks.
I watched him walking around, and the whomever was, and assuming that these spots of him walking around was an actor in the suit,
Yeah, it's Ed
did a
Gale
really
and
good.
Jordan Prentice.
They did a really great job that it never looked like somebody was trying to walk in weird like feet. You know what I mean? When you got this costume, like I went one year for Halloween as Bam Bam, and I had these ginormous feet, and like trying to walk in them, like the clown shoe thing, you know.
Yeah,
So they did a good job that like Howard's just walking around. He looks like he would be
yeah.
comfortable in his own body. He walks. But yeah, I think one of the hardest parts of this movie was they couldn't figure out what the hell they were making. Are you making a kids movie? Are you making a family movie? Are you making like an R-rated raunchy movie? Because it was
Yeah.
just way too much of all of it. So you alienated every one of your viewers.
And then part of it, we alienated the comic book. Like, oh, finally, they're making a book, a movie about a comic book character, and it ends up being Howard
And
the
then it's
Duck, first of
this.
all. And it's this. It's George Lucas obviously was in charge of this movie, so it's not like his production company was telling him what he could and couldn't do. My wonder is Universal
Yeah.
Pictures is the one that distributed it. And I'm wondering if they're like, you have to do this. Your success on Star Wars and Temple and, or Star Wars and Indiana Jones is going to make us want it to be more like that. And so you have
More
to
like,
add
yeah,
in that
more family
space
friendly,
part of
more
it. You have to add in that
right.
family, and you can do a bit. You can go a little bit further, but you don't want to alienate your audiences who are going to go see this movie because it says Lucas on it. Is maybe that's why. I don't know. It's one of those weird movies that was. I mean, $40 million in 1986 is
God,
honestly
like, so much money.
it's a lot of money, and I don't think
So
it's like
much money.
actually. It's like, I didn't look this up. What was Star Wars made for? Star Wars. No, because
The
it would have been
original
70s. Temple of Doom was right around that
You can
same
go
time.
Temple of Doom was right around the same time. Well, I mean,
84. So
what was
Temple of
what was
Doom
the
was made
last
for
Star
$10
Wars?
million less.
Oh my God.
It made $333 million in the theaters.
What about Star Wars Return of the Jedi? Because that would have been at least that was 81, right? That was
83.
up in the 83. So 83, so we're not,
Okay, so here's
you
the
know.
deal. The average the estimated guesstimated price is 33 to 43 million dollars. So it's right in that. It would have been that same about $38 million,
Yeah.
right around
And
there.
and
So
when you look at that
Temple,
movie, you've got so much more going on in Return of
yep.
the Jedi, multiple sets. And because the thought is you have the Ewoks running around. And the Ewoks don't ever look bad. I mean, they're Ewoks, but they never look bad. Where
We
you have
also not
scenes
very
in
close to
Howard
them
that
that
just,
often. You're like, it's like these small scenes, and you have an
yeah, they're
entire movie
usually
off of
off.
them.
Yeah, you're kind of off to the side and this and that and from afar. But you've got those. You have droids. You have the stormtroopers and the speeder bikes, and
Yeah.
you have all these things going on that all look good versus some of the random Howard the Duck stuff. And to think that
The
it's
story
just
wasn't good. Yeah,
no,
story had plot holes, had lacks
a
in it.
lot,
So there's obviously
and
19.
just a lack of focus.
Yes, 1980s production, obviously of special effects. This is where we have so on and so forth. I was torn watching the movie, like when the suit, when he's in the suit, or like there's certain things about his suit that are great, like the eyes move and all that stuff. You're believing that this is, you're like, for a moment there, you're lost in the fact that this is an actual human duck. Like there is that
Like,
part of it.
yeah, it's like it's an alien, so okay, this is what he looks like.
But the biggest I want to say now, after talking about this and discussing this further with you, is the biggest downfall is George Lucas's name attached to it and the budget. I love Waterworld. Okay, the movie Waterworld.
Oh my god, I love
absolutely
Waterworld.
love the movie.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why that movie is hated by a lot of people, or it wasn't very successful, is because it was the size of the budget was absolutely outstanding. Because of the fact that it was shot on water and all that stuff, they had to make this movie for so much money. And because of that, the gap between what it made versus what it was cost to make. So this movie, Waterworld, was made in 1995. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a 90 movie. Yep.
19 oh, the screenplay was written in 1986. But it was 1995, it actually came out. It was made for $175 million.
Oh my god.
Okay, it's 10 years later, 4 times the budget, 4.5 times the budget of what's it called? Howard the Duck we just mentioned.
So it's going to be considered a flop because it is so much.
It made $264 million. So it did make $260 million. But the problem is that the budget was so freaking high that you set the bar so high. And the same thing with this. You have George Lucas. You have, Leah Thompson, who was a Back to the Future star. You have
she was a huge name at the time.
$40 million budget. Bam, this movie's gonna be amazing, and it wasn't. And I think that's where people, you set yourself up to fail.
That's where you get the worst movie of all time.
Yes, well,
worst movie of all time.
Okay,
because this wasn't $1 million movie. This wasn't the Fantastic Four we watched. No. This was big budget, going to the theaters, huge releases, the whole deal, and then we ended up with Howard the Duck.
And so it won.
I tell you what, I would wear a Howard the Duck shirt from this movie, like the Howard the Duck logo, like the egg and
the
stuff.
cover of the movie is amazing. The egg with the cigar coming out of it, that's perfect. The problem with that is that's not the duck that we get, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
No.
But
he smokes cigars. He drinks beer.
Is a 13% on Rotten Tomato for critics and 38% for fans. That makes sense, and it skews over to goes over to IMDb with similar 4.7. So, like, you're talking about people, like, it's about a 50% there. Like, people like it, people don't like it. Okay, I understand that. So the Golden Raspberries, the Razzies, this award that come out every year right around the time of the Oscars. That's the opposite. You know what I mean? So it's the negative versions of these. Every year they go out and they get these, like, worst screenplay. They give out worst special effects, worst new star, all that stuff. In 1986, Howard the Duck received 7 nominations, and it won, quote unquote. You win. You win by not winning.
Win, or you lost.
So you lost. It should be that you lost because you got the award. Right. Everybody who didn't get the award,
the loser goes to.
It won worst picture of the year, worst screenplay of the year, worst new star. Which they put the worst new star is actually all of the people who played Howard the Duck.
Yeah, all the puppeteer, everybody involved in Howard the Duck itself.
And then worst visual effects. 3 years later at the Golden Raspberries Awards in 1989, it was nominated for worst picture of the decade, but it lost to Mommy Dearest. So it didn't actually get the worst decade of the decade. However, it's been widely considered one. I don't know. It was 7 nominations for worst awards, and it won 1, 2, 3, 4 of them at least. And won another. Someone else had this horrible movie of the year kind of thing, and it won that too. But like, it was not a wildly received movie. But again, there's something about this movie that I can watch easier. I will probably never watch Man-Thing again. Okay. I will not be watching Fantastic Four unless it's with someone to show them that I want to show.
Yeah, I'm not going back to watch
this movie. I can see putting back on. Like I said, I like Tim Robbins. Watching Shawshank Redemption again, or this made me want to watch Shawshank Redemption because I want to see Tim Robbins in an actual good role. And it makes me want to watch Back to the Future again. So like those things, it gives me those vibes, and I like that.
It's crazy that like this was Tim Robbins' first ever movie. They just on the spot hired him. You're perfect for it. Oh yeah. The acting is totally wonky, but I think that's what they wanted. They wanted this guy that was like weird, and he had a pretty big role in it. Watching it, like the scenes with Howard flying, which apparently was another huge huge budget eater. The scenes of Howard flying the powered parachute, which also I question if it really even needed to be in the movie.
Yes.
He goes and
Well,
gets the
it's
thing and he's
flying
going around and
because they can't fly on his home world, so they were flying.
right. He can't fly, so here he's flying this thing, and yeah, and Tim Rum's in the back yelling like you search for your inner duck or whatever he's going on about, like your prehistoric versions flew, Howard, you can do it, all this crap. But man, that was like, I didn't realize the first time through, but watching it again, that was a long friggin' scene. That like police chase scene was like what, 20 minutes probably?
Yeah, well,
Like 15,
why though?
20 minutes of the police chasing him and him flying and him crashing and him flying and him crashing again, and like that went on for a long time.
There's no reason why it would be that long. I don't understand why it needed to be that long.
You could have had the police chasing him and then him getting up into the air and then just be done with it.
So the 3 categories in IMDb it's listed under is action, adventure, and comedy. So I'm guessing they wanted it to be an action adventure movie, so you had to put this action adventure in the movie, and that's
right. You got to have the police scene. Yeah, the police chasing it. The police car. That was another one I saw. The police car crashes through, of all things, the like booth that sells duck. Like, where the hell have you ever seen a booth that sells like cooked duck? There's all these ducks hanging up, and the police car, crashes through that and into the water. I mean, how much did that scene cost? Why did we decide we've got to like destroy a cop car in the set and all this on this Howard the Duck's chase scene? Like,
so if we work in the studio, you and I, we're running the studio. Other than saving money, like other than being like, okay, let's make this movie for $27 million instead of $37 million.
There's a whole bunch of it.
That money spent, I don't know if could have been spent better. Do you know what I mean? Like, not saying that's a good thing that they did that. My point is, on some movies that made today. So if you make a movie today and it was made for $250 million, and I was like, what did you spend your money on when the special effects suck? Or you have whatever. So to me, it's like, who else would have said yes to playing Howard the Duck and Howard the Duck movie? Like, who would have played, like, who else would have?
Yeah, nobody.
Like, Leah Thompson was a role, was a character, was a person, having these people in there.
And she was apparently upset with the amount of times, and I did start noticing it after reading about it, the amount of times that she's not the focus in something. She's just sort of there. And I start noticing there's lots of times where she's in the background nodding or looking different directions, and it's like sort of irrelevant. She's just sort of there. She's not getting like a focus to it. And it's funny that she went to this big complaint about it all, but I guess if you're spending the money for an actress that was at the time a big actress, why not have more like focus on her, more point to her being there? I think we could have saved some serious money by ditching the crash scene, the whole chase scene. Like, let's ditch like 90% of that, and ditching the entire giant alien, which at the time it did get props for.
Yeah.
But if you go and look at this versus look at like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, they're very similar in looks of the, like, the stop animation, and it's kind of clay looking, puppet looking thing of the alien. But yeah, we could have taken that whole freaking scene out and just eliminated all that too, and we probably just saved $10 million.
It's a $10 million. We could save $10 million so that it makes it looks like it loses less money.
It becomes a $27 million movie instead of a $37 million movie.
But other than that, though, what am I taking that $10 million and putting it towards? I don't know if I would have been able to fix this movie unless I had $10 million rewrite. Like, okay,
I was gonna say a rewrite. Actually, getting a plot that made some sort of like sense or reasoning.
But other than that, I can't be like, you honestly, Howard the Duck, for what they wanted to do and how they could do it in 1986 is probably the best that we probably could have gotten from the actual Howard the Duck. Maybe some consistency over the suits versus the non-suits and maybe the non-suits should have looked like the ones that, like, so like you have to base it off of the fact that you have Ed Gale and Jordan Prentice in the suit. Now, everything from that point on has to look like that because you can't adjust that because their head has to go in it and so on and so forth.
Yeah, his heads are the same size as the body constantly. The body doesn't change shape, so he's not either like chunky and waddling or really thin and narrow. Like he's athletic all of a sudden. You got to stick to one of these things. So
but for a duck, that's a fat duck.
Yeah,
duck heads are small.
Yeah.
So like, I just think the whole idea about his head was like a weird shape, but it had to fit someone's head. So like, other than that. The fact that it could not have done much.
But he's an alien. His brain's developed that much further. You know what I mean? Hey, they build houses and drive cars and make pornos and all this other weird crap. They make beer and they have money. So like their brains have developed. Their heads got bigger. I guess you could write that out there.
did.
And that would have been a Tim Robbins not being a completely idiotic scientist. Like he could have had a little bit of intelligence, because that's another one. You've got him in there, and she's bringing it to him because he's the scientist.
Yep.
And then you find out he's more like
No.
a janitor, but even a janitor has more common sense than this guy.
Yes.
Like it's just a complete more. There's like you find the biggest idiot on Duckworld, and it's still smarter than this guy was.
But Duckworld, you mentioned Duckworld. The jokes that didn't land in Earth, what they tried to. I'd rewatch the first 15 minutes of Howard the Duck over and over and over again just to pick up on the Easter eggs. No pun intended. Of all the stuff that's in Duckworld, the stuff that's in the background, the stuff, the name of the shows, the fact that his world is shaped like an egg, all those things were so amazing that we lost because he came to Earth. Like, so like, it's not like, I would have really wished it would have been like, it almost would have been a better story to have Leah Thompson and Tim Robbins be screwing around and have them been transported to Duckworld in the first movie and have them get the fish out of water and Howard rescue them back and have his scientist friend ended up bringing him back. And then there was plans for a sequel until this flopped. There was actually writing, like the end of the movie is open enough that they wanted to make it that they could have made a sequel. Well, so the sequel could have been
makes sense.
him.
Howard's stuck on Earth. Like you can do whatever you want now with him.
I would have loved that first movie to been on Duckworld, and then the second movie when Howard the Duck saving Bev and what's his name? Who played it? Was it Phil? Bev and Phil, have them be sucked in and back to Earth, and then Howard the Duck, oops, crap. Or there's something happening on his Earth and he has to jump in with them and get sucked to Earth, and then having them try to get him back. I don't know. I just feel like those jokes at the beginning were the funniest ones. The porn, the play duck, the Budweiser beer being smaller, and his stuff that's on TV, and the different stuff that's going on that's duck related.
All the commercials and all the posters up. And he's been like an actor, and he's been a musician and this and that. And you have the stuff of him up on there. The Indiana Jones poster.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's all. And it's probably a Temple of Doom poster. I didn't pay attention to it.
I think I believe it was. I believe it was
with the writing team being a Temple of Doom writing team. It makes sense they would use the Temple of Doom thing in there, but they didn't put any Star Wars things in there. But that the idea.
You know what's funny? I could just watch movies. I could watch Lucasfilms with the Duck characters all, and just have that. Like, honestly, that'd be entertaining. And then what if world? And it's the exact same. I want the same Howard the Duck costumes, but them dressed up as stormtroopers and them dressed up, in all. So
it would be like the duck, those stickers that it's like the Donald Duck as the stormtrooper head. Like that would have been like it would have had to fit the bill, so it would have had to change the way that the stormtrooper's mask. Yeah, the stormtrooper
went. Yeah, the Vader with him coming out there and like waddling down. Like all that stuff would be great. Like I could just watch that. That'd be fine.
Probably would have been better when we saw. It's not.
It probably would have been better. You know what? At least if you went off the original plots of the movies, the plot would have made more sense.
And here's the deal: my star rating for this out of 5 stars has gone between a 1.5 and a 2 multiple times because it's entertaining, and that's the difference. I feel like the Man Thing and any other movies that we watched that are not very good, and the movies that we will watch that were not very good, is the fact that this is a movie that's entertaining. I wasn't. All of
the upcoming not good movies.
I wasn't like twisting my arm to watch the movie. I was willing to watch the movie. I was interested in watching the movie.
I mean, I had already watched it, and I went back and watched it again, and I have put it on in the background here or there, like when I have when we have company here that's appropriate in the store to like put this on, and I'll put it on for people that've never seen it, and they're like, "What the hell am I looking at right now?"
Well, I mean, after the first 20 minutes,
come in Friday.
The last hour and 40 minutes are fine because it's just the first 20 minutes is the duck boobs and the underwear scenes.
You got to get through that. Yeah, you got to get through that whole spell there. So I had a customer come in Friday, never been in the store before, loved the shop. We had Howard the Duck going, and I'm like, I just felt like a Howard the Duck day. I said, we're actually going to, do this podcast for it. And the guy thought it was awesome. He goes, oh, you got to watch Garbage Pail Kids if you haven't seen that. And I said, they made a Garbage Pail Kids movie? So apparently in the 80s, it's got to be a terrible movie.
It's bad.
Of Garbage Pail Kids. So, there's another one.
We could add that on the list,
Add it to the list. A customer request. We can do it. You know what I was just thinking of that must have been right around the same time was what's the Toxic Crusader?
Toxic Avenger.
Toxic Avenger. That was a full live action movie
that
I've never seen.
They're remaking it.
I'm sure it's people. It's funny because I know people that like swear by their childhood like nostalgia of that movie. I'm sure it sucks. It's got to be bad.
Yeah, well,
Like,
but I think it's bad on purpose. If that makes any sense. Like it's a
yeah.
little B
Unlike
movie.
this, it's not trying to be bad.
This was a
This
feature
is
film,
trying to.
and this is actually one of the
Yeah.
differences between some of the movies we've watched in the past. So, like, if you think about going backwards, we have like the Fantastic Four movie we watched wasn't a blockbuster movie. It wasn't a feature film because it never was
It
released.
never came out at all. Yeah.
And so, and you go from there, and you just think about the last one, which Man Thing was released on TV. This was a feature film that was released in the summer. Was a summer blockbuster film. Like the movie was released in August.
Oh yeah.
This movie was released at the same time in 1986 as roughly as Oppenheimer and Barbie were released. That's the faith and the hope they had for this movie.
Well,
and
this is like I said, my childhood memory of the giant cutout. Like they came out for this thing with everything. Like I'm sort of surprised there aren't action figures of it. You know how it was back in the day, up until like maybe probably in the early 90s.
Yeah.
They made action figures for everything, stuff that kids should never watch. Demolition Man, like average 8-year-olds should not be watching Demolition Man. They made action figures for it. Like all of these like big releases. So I'm really shocked there aren't Howard the Duck figures for this movie.
And they can't get sued by Disney anymore because they're owned by Disney.
Oh, there we go. We've officially crossed the bridge.
The Donald Duck
part of it's gone. Is this going to go on Disney Plus?
Yeah. I don't think I would think at some point. I don't know. It's one of those movies. It's Lucasfilm.
They need to have the I don't know if
it's Universal. That's the problem. I wonder if Universal still has the distribution rights for it. That's probably where it comes into. But he appeared. So
this should be one that
the better versions of him, and it's only split seconds of these things. He appeared on Guardians of the Galaxy as in a living exhibit in a collector's museum. He later appeared in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Avengers Endgame, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. However, he was meant to make a cameo appearance in the live action film Avengers Infinity War. Like he was going to come in and do that. His scene was cut.
All right.
Howard the Duck was confirmed of surviving the blip. So the fact that he didn't actually blip out, which is something that some people care about, and so on and so forth. So
the amount of important, relevant people that blipped, and then Howard's just like chilling.
So there's hope. There's definitely hope in the fact they were working on a TV show to be released on Hulu. Is that there's hope we're going to get a Howard the Duck in the future, and I think it's a smart business decision for Marvel and for Disney, because I think that the obscurity of him, the funniness of him, the quackiness of him. I think maybe they wait for Deadpool 3 to come out R-rated and see how that goes. See how we can make this work in a way that Howard the Duck is. Hopefully, maybe Howard the Duck ends up in Deadpool 3. We don't know.
I was gonna say we're doing. It looks like they're doing Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe for Deadpool 3, and it would be great to see this Howard in that, like him running around wiping out.
I think they should do a what if episode where we go, what if, and then it ends up with this Duck.
Yeah. I honestly. So no, I don't like the voice actor particularly for it or anything, but I would kind of like to see this Howard the Duck back. So
you can remaster it. You can just have someone record the voices over again.
Yeah, I think I go 2 stars. I think I go 2 stars on this. This is, I get it, and probably it helps that I grew up in the 80s, so like I have a nostalgia for this style of movie, whether it be any good or not. Because I could see, like Garrett that works here was, he was born in 2000s, I think. Yeah. Like he is probably not going to get a lot of appreciation out of this.
No, he's not. And that's the thing. It's like part of us have to go, this was an 80s film, and you look at it and go, okay, this is an 80s film, and you move on.
I mean, it screams Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
People who are younger, it has there's certain things. There's 1980s movies that like someone like Garrett could watch because there's no special effects in it. There's no. It's just it's Stand By Me, which is a great movie, but it's like that kind of movie where there's no special effects in it. It's just a movie about these kids walking. Like there's these movies that are just like straight ahead movies from the 80s are excellent.
So my all-time favorite, RoboCop. If it didn't have the Ed 209 scenes in it, that movie would stand perfectly. And honestly, you could still have the Ed 209 opening scene of the giant robot and them trying to get it to work and it killing one of the executives, but never do anything else with it. Or just scenes that it's not moving, I guess. Yeah. The puppeteering on that would have been fine if we didn't have to have it move. Yeah. There's only one scene that the robot moves around a lot and it looks bad, because the rest of it is all practical, and I've watched it in high def, and the RoboCop suit still looks great. So versus you look at some of these other 80 movies where they try to get more of the CGI. Terminator looks terrible now. You watch that, it looks really bad. But this
But it had a
isn't
better story. That's the thing.
yeah. And Howard the Duck, we're not trying to take ourselves seriously. So the fact that I feel like you can always write off the look of the duck because he's an alien. As long as he was consistent, you'd be fine. Like, oh, yeah, he's funky looking, but he's an alien. What the hell do we know what an alien humanoid duck's supposed to look like?
No one said it was supposed to be a duck walking around. Like, that's not,
Yeah.
But
it's not a duck from our world. We didn't mutate the duck. It wasn't like it didn't develop intelligence and start talking, anything like that. We have a full on alien. So what the hell?
I would have loved to
see like a duck.
Shots of like Duckworld having like little humans walking around swimming in ponds.
Right.
With wings.
The
like
sci-fi movies, sci-fi movies about them taking over.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
But,
yeah.
So we followed up our last review.
Howard the guy.
Howard the
guy.
Howard the dog. Howard the chipmunk. Howard the lion. We'll just do a bunch of them.
You've got the parody of its own movie in itself.
Oh, speaking of that, I love the fact that his name is Howard the Duck, and on his license it says Howard T. Duck.
Wouldn't they all be named Duck?
Well, no. I said, what's the T stand for? In my mind, I'm going, the. Howard T. Duck is Howard the Duck. I'm like, oh my God, that's so. But we did. So 2-star review, I think, is a good review for us. I think it's one of those ones that's probably pushing it for some people. I've seen people give it a 5-star review because of the cult classic part of it. And I've seen people give it a 1-star or a half-star or a no star because
it won for the worst movie. So, yes. You got to kind of just take what you can get with it, I guess.
So while we're on that thing, we'll finish up here with some Amazon 1-star reviews. Okay.
Oh, this would be good.
The title of this review is My Girlfriend Hated It. She almost broke up with me over this movie. I can't recommend that you take the risk. We never laughed. Not once.
Almost broke a relationship. Yeah. Wow.
Woo. Okay.
Number one. I didn't think it was that bad.
That was from 2002. From 2014, a 1-star review. George Lucas is ashamed of this and should be. That's the title. It's a heaping pile of monkey crap.
That's hateful.
But I knew that before I bought it. Howard the Duck is such a bad movie that I had to get it to show my younger employees that did not know what it is. They saw the cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy. It is so bad, it's not even entertaining. Okay. Couldn't make it through the story.
Cameo scene making it work.
That's what I'm saying. Couldn't make it through it. The story felt like it dragged on. Yes. Couldn't make it through it. The story felt like it dragged on. Some of the special effects were cool, but story was meh. I was watching it because the Marvel credit scene. And that's the reason I picked that one. Again, someone did that. So 1-star review. We have 3 more. 1-star reviews. Donald Duck smoking crack equals Howard the Duck. That's the name of the title of the review. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to get kicked in the nuts and have your appendix rupture at the same time? Well, this movie will bring you to tears. Cult classic.
Wow.
I haven't ever liked this movie, but my husband loves it. I haven't ever liked this movie, but my husband loves it. I don't know why people name the title of that and then write the same first words in there, but
they must have not put a title and it just copies it probably.
I think it's too corny. As long as I don't have to watch it, we are good. And the last one is I suffered through this. Worst movie ever. I can't believe it. This is time I can never get back.
Not wrong.
No, but it's just funny how much people like push into things. But
I'm telling you right now, I like this more than Man Thing. Yes. Like it's helpful. It doesn't take itself seriously.
No, and that's I think that's why it has that.
Yeah, that's the catch right there. It's not taking itself seriously. It's not supposed to be like a legitimate thing. Like we're supposed to have cared about the characters in Man Thing. I care more about Leah Thompson's character than I do the characters in Man Thing.
Yeah.
They at least got you for that. Like, I don't know. I get it. I get it. If you bought this movie because you thought you were going to really, really, really enjoy it, that might be on you, though. At this point in time, that might be on you.
And with the internet,
if you ordered,
you can look up on the internet.
Yeah, you ordered this and you bought this because you really thought this was going to be like a critically acclaimed movie. That's really kind of your fault.
Yes. In 1986, he went to the theaters. I don't blame you because you went to the
Yeah,
theaters to see this movie.
no. Yep. I don't blame you. You saw
buy it
Lucas on
digitally
it.
now
You
or buy
saw
it on yes.
you know that there was like previews and posters and commercials for this thing. Like this was gonna get the big push. Oh man, I wonder if my DVD has that. You know, some of them used to have the commercial or like the preview of it that was being played in theaters. I would love to see what the hell the preview of this movie looked like.
Probably all the good parts of the movie were in the preview. It's probably this is exactly kind of movie
I'm sure. I gotta Google that. Talk about your wild incoherentness. Why the hell are there biker gangs driving around Cleveland at night attacking a guy in a duck suit?
Listen, it was the 80s.
It was the 80s, man. Yeah,
80s in Cleveland.
Cocaine was pretty heavy then. I guess that makes sense.
Probably is now there too. Sorry, Clevelanders. But following our last review, which we watched Man Thing, we did change what we're doing here on these movie review things. We were originally going to do Captain Marvel and then yada, 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 yada. We decided, literally, we made audibles like right after. We texted each other afterwards, like, let's do this. So we're going to do the lesser known, more abstract, or what some people consider bad, Marvel, DC, comic book related movies and adjacent movies. So my thought is at some point we'll run out of those, but like Garbage Pail Kids might be in that. That would be adjacent.
Right.
You sell garbage.
I think we got.
Well, they have a comic
book now. We got a solid anyway, few years of movies that we can probably do.
Yes. And some of them will be movies that we actually kind of like or are going to be higher because of they're related to something. So like, for an example, for Horror Week in end of October, beginning of November, we're doing Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Paul and I will watch that and review that. And then follow that, we're going to watch Batman Returns for the Christmas season. And that is one of those ones where it's like, it's not going to be in your 1 or 2 star, one or 1.5 star or 1 star, but it's not going to be a 5 star. But it's going to be
I can tell you that both of the upcoming movies I love. I love both of them. I have a childhood love from Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I actually was going to dress as that last year for Halloween, but the costumes are so expensive when they're really nothing to them. But
it's gonna be fun.
It's terrible.
It's gonna be fun.
Though. Yeah, I will go into this. I will watch this without my like nostalgia glasses on. I'm not gonna be like, oh, this is so good. And I guarantee Killer Clowns from Outer Space sucks. Guaranteed.
So I even actually Taylor's actually gonna watch it with me because she's like, oh, I'd watch that. She's not a big horror film or anything. But I was like, let's just watch it. So we're gonna watch it together.
It's more comedy than it is horror.
Yeah. And so we'll watch that. We'll review that for Horror Week. We got some cool other guests lined up, which we find. Yes, exactly. We'll get her. I'll get her like write a little quote down or something like that, so we can put it on here.
Yep.
And then we'll do Batman, which will be fun because Batman movies. There's some really good ones. Most of them are really good, honestly. I'll tell you that much. Like they're good. They're probably all better than Howard the Duck. Yes,
probably. But boy, I really hate Batman and Robin. I know
Batman and Robin's gonna be down there.
I have people here that love Batman and Robin, and I cannot.
Batman and Robin might be the only one out of all of them that's worse than.
I think it goes back to that taking yourself seriously. I think I would rather watch Howard the Duck than Batman and Robin. I've said it, and there's going to be George Clooney fans that are going to try to kill me now.
Well, if you go to capesandtights.com for Batman Day, we put down our top 10 favorite live action Batman movies on there for Batman Day.
Oh,
2023.
I missed that. I was
Batman. I'll spoil the first one. Batman and Robin is the worst Batman movie that's ever been made.
Yes.
So, So that's saying something.
Yes.
So, so we'll do that. And we're hoping to do Daredevil in the beginning of the new year because the Daredevil show is coming out. So there's a connection there. And that's a bad Marvel movie. However, the writer's strike and all that crap going on, you don't know if Marvel decides to shift their schedule next year. I would like to watch that movie closer to when that actual series comes out. So if that's the case, we'll move that and watch something else, but we will be watching that one as well. Other than that, we're having some fun, cool things for the rest of the year. We'll do our end of the year wrap up of our favorite comic books of the year. Paul and I will do that. There's hopes to do that with a live studio audience, but we're still working the details out of that. And so on and so forth. So if you live in the greater Bangor area, we might want to keep an eye out for that, see what happens.
It'd be worth the drive.
It's not going to be on the internet. We'll tell
even
people,
if you live further away, make the trip. It's worth it for this.
Yeah.
Seriously.
You just want people to buy comic books. Shut up. But so that was fun. Howard the Duck. It's available on Amazon. The big Amazon conglomerate there over there. You can watch it on there. I don't know where else it streams.
I looked for it. Streaming was very hard.
You can watch
the
it.
only
Okay, so
thing
here's
was-
out. You can watch
It
it
was
on.
streaming on Sling TV, but I don't have that.
Okay, here's the deal.
I don't know.
You can
what
watch
the
it
hell
most places that have purchasing abilities. So like
Yeah,
YouTube,
yeah, you can rent
YouTube's
it.
thing, Google Play, Apple TV, Vudu, all that stuff, as well as
Yeah.
Amazon. You can rent it on there. It's available
Wide
to purchase
open-
on DVD and Blu-ray as well.
Wide open general streaming though. I don't think it really is.
No.
Like anywhere. I couldn't
It's-
find it.
It's right now. You can rent it right now. I don't know how long this will be rentable. It's 99 cents. So,
Oh. Well, get on it, folks. This is your
well, here's
time.
the deal. Forget streaming it.
Would you
Buy
invest
the-
$1
buy
in this?
Buy the physical media. It's fun.
Yeah.
The cover, the book,
Yeah.
the cover is amazing. If you ever get
I
a
bought
chance
it.
to go to a convention and meet one of the 8 people that played
Over there somewhere.
Howard the Duck, you can have him sign it. You know, it's whatever.
I would go get a Howard the Duck comic signed by them because
Howard
it's
the
just-
Duck VHS to get it. Bob
fun, man.
Takic.
Oh baby,
Oh,
Oh,
God,
what could Bob do
got
with
a
it?
plan.
Oh.
Bob, if you
power
listen to this.
of all of this. Just
But speaking
we
of
must
that-
have enjoyed this movie. You know,
Yes, we did. I think it's like I said, the cult classic part of it is why I like it. I think it's one of those things that you can actually talk to someone and actually see. One of the few movies that we're going to watch more recently with Man Thing and the Fantastic Four movie that you can say, hey, let's talk about Howard the Duck, and someone's actually going to be able to have a conversation with you about it because they've seen it. Whereas
Yeah.
other movies that we watch that are more obscure, like we talk about the 1990
least
Captain
heard of
America
it.
movie, people are going to be like, oh, I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. So that's this Howard the Duck at least is a discussion you can have. And Howard the Duck is one of those characters that people know from comic books. So I think it's worth people watching. So watch it. Give us your thoughts if you want. You can send it to hello@capesandtights.com or tweet at us or whatever. But
throw suggestions in. What movies should we watch for the upcoming few years here? Maybe a while before we get to them, but hey, throw a suggestion up.
Yes. Well, yeah, exactly. We
Just
can add more
just,
if it ends up
make
being
sure
a big thing. If people want to watch these or listen to these, we'll add more. I don't
Garrett,
care.
we're not watching Thor, okay, Garrett? Get over it. Well,
No,
actually,
what we should do, we should watch Thor.
Wasn't there the old 90s Thor movie, 80s Thor movie? What the hell
We
was that
should
one?
We should
Or does
just
he
watch
appear in one of them?
Thor Dark World, which I don't like that movie, and just shit over the entire thing and have him sit there with us and just have to take
I
it.
I would rather shit on Ragnarok because I would
I
rather
don't.
watch Dark World than Ragnarok.
Stop it. Stop it
No.
right now.
No, I hate Ragnarok.
Okay, but Garrett, we love you. You're not going to listen to this because Garrett doesn't like us. So,
No.
but yeah, that's been another episode of the Capes and Tights podcast, talking movies. Paul is an owner at Galactic Comics and Collectibles on Hammond Street in Bangor, Maine. GalacticComicsandCollectibles.com. You can find him on Facebook now because it was gone for a second. Then it was back again.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun, stressful Friday edition.
Instagram, you can find him on there too. You can find him pretty much once a month now on Capes and Tights podcast, talking movies, at least every 6 weeks or so. Yeah, and check out our other ones, Man Thing, Fantastic Four, other ones that are available on our thing too.
I'm sure we've reviewed some others back
Nick
before
Fury.
this became a regular.
Nick
The
Fury,
Nick
Agent of
Fury, the Shield. Yeah, I don't want to watch that again either.
Nope. So, but we will watch Howard the Duck again sometime and check him out. Howard the Duck's available streaming now. Otherwise, thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Justin.
See you this week.
Hey, peace out, Lance.